Got half my fan club here, thank you very much. And I also, on the very extensive bio, not because I've done so much, but because I'm so old, it mentions that I'm first graduating class of Brother Martin High School, New Orleans, Louisiana. And New Orleans is a great place to be from, and I'm so happy to be here in Baton Rouge. New Orleans got this love affair with itself. You know, we're talking about New Orleans people coming up here. They get about as far as the waterway, the what's it called? The spillway. They get as far as the spillway. It's like this bungee cord pulls them back, you know. But it's always good to have people coming up from New Orleans to spend their money. Thank you, Michelle. It's always great to be here. I think we were here about a year and a half ago. And as you know, Visit Baton Rouge, we work with great partners such as the press in making what we do as successful as it is. It's often that we are confused with such organizations such as Downtown Development District, Baton Rouge Area Chamber, city, parish government, etc. We are not part of that. However, we do have great relationships with those entities. We work with our hotels, attractions, and restaurants to make things happen here in Baton Rouge, and we could not have the success that we're having without their support. Today we're going to talk about what Visit Baton Rouge does and how it impacts our impact reaches more than just visitors that make their way here to Louisiana's capital city. We're going to talk about how it affects all of us. In an effort to reach out to the community and residents that call Baton Rouge home, we announced last month, and in collaboration with the Baton Rouge Bicentennial, a community-wide project to encourage our residents to invite out-of-town friends and family to Baton Rouge. With so many events taking place this fall and into the winter, we're asking our visitors, our locals, to extend local invitations to out-of-town friends and family to visit the capital city. In this month's issue of 225 magazine, a prepaid postage postcard was inserted. We're encouraging our citizens to write to their out-of-town friends and family to visit Baton Rouge during this very special time. Certainly the weather's great. So you can find those postcards in the 225 magazine this month's issue. You can find them at the main library. You can find those postcards at Visit Baton Rouge. Now, Visit Baton Rouge is an organization that was formed 45 years ago, 1972, by the Louisiana legislature. We are governed by a board of directors that represent the tourism industry. It is our mission to increase visitation and awareness to the Baton Rouge area, thereby enhancing the economy. I'm proud to announce that Visit Baton Rouge is not only an accredited organization, but in July we were notified that we are now a re-accredited destination marketing organization. We were the second destination marketing organization, CVB, in this state to be accredited, and we're now the first to be re-accredited. It is quite a process. According to Destinations International, which is our professional association based in Washington, D.C., there are only 200 destination marketing organizations worldwide that hold that recognition. Worldwide, just to give you an idea, you got about 60 destination marketing organizations in the state of Louisiana. Almost every parish has one. 200 have been accredited worldwide, so you're talking about maybe 1,000 or so destination marketing organizations. In order to achieve that reaccreditation, we had to excel in 16 different areas, which include finance, governance, human resources, marketing, innovation, sales, group services, and more. I'm proud to say that not only did we excel, but we received high remarks on our submission, and in fact, they're using our submission as a boilerplate for other organizations who wish to be accredited. Hats off to my staff that did a great job. It's about an 18-month process. Many people are familiar with Visit Baton Rouge, but not necessarily about what we do. We have a staff of 18 very talented people in our offices right there on 3rd and Laurel. Our administration consists of my office, our Vice President of Administration who oversees day-to-day operations and human resources, and our controller who handles day-to-day finances, budgeting, etc. Our special event projects collaborates with area partners to assist with planning events and works closely with Sports BR, the Baton Rouge Sports Foundation, and Baton Rouge Film Commission in order to coordinate and plan opening events, large-scale events, scouting locations for films and television series, movies, etc. We've got a great relationship with both our Film Commission and our Sports Commission, and I can tell you other cities envy that kind of relationship. We also have a tremendous relationship with the Raisin Cane River Center, but we'll talk more about that in a second. Marketing and Technology Department handles our marketing, advertising, communications, and technology strategies and day-to-day needs. Research is a newer component of this department and has never been more important than it is now. It is used to base our marketing and advertising decisions and to keep up with trends. We're very, very proud of what we're getting done now, particularly using the research both local and industry-wide. With growing trends and changes is so very important. Just a few years ago, this department worried about what publications to place an ad in. Now we're focused on how to reach tourists and potential tourists, representing 4 different generations. We're going after 4 generations of tourism. We're using the same budget to reach these 4 generations that we did just a few years ago to reach the boomers. Each generation consumes information differently. Some still prefer traditional advertisements, while others prefer to see or hear them on various and multiple devices. Destination sales. This is my old school work when I got first into business in convention sales. We now call that destination sales because it deals with both conventions, conferences, sports events, and tourism. Destination sales works in collaboration with the Sports BR, pursuing sporting events to Baton Rouge, be it baseball tournaments, soccer tournaments, softball tournaments, bowling congress, etc. They're also responsible for securing business meetings, corporate meetings, conventions, summits, etc. In addition, the tourism department, tourism portion of that department, pursues domestic and leisure, international, domestic leisure, group, international variety of tourism outlets that we go to try to pursue those conferences, conventions, and individual and group leisure travelers to Baton Rouge. The sector of tourism industry becoming more competitive. Tourism industry is becoming more competitive, and the staff is really having to think outside the box to put together proposals that sets us apart from our competition. Incentives are becoming a big factor for groups, and we'll talk more about our plans in a few minutes to show how we can better compete with those cities and that understand the value and economic impact that meetings, conventions, sporting events, and tourism have on a community. Every community is going after this market. We've got to be more competitive, and we are going to be. Domestic and international tourism is gaining traction. With flights opening up between New Orleans and Frankfurt, Germany, and New Orleans and London, this gives us more of an opportunity to bring them to Baton Rouge. The international visitor has 2 weeks, 3 weeks that they spend on their trips, on their holiday. They come through New Orleans, they'll spend time in Baton Rouge, move on to Lafayette, maybe go up to Natchez, Mississippi, up to Memphis, etc. We see an increase in international travel, both individual and group. We've seen an increase toward more efforts being put toward reaching both domestic and international visitors, and we feel that the market is something that we can increase. Destination Services Department. They work with the riverboats. We have some 60 some odd dockings here every year. We meet each vessel. We're the only city that meets each vessel, providing information to those visitors who get off, even though it's only for a half a day or a day that they take a tour of the area, what have you. We want them to go back home to their respective cities saying wonderful things about Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and they do. They also work with visitors and clients to meet and exceed their needs and expectations. For meeting professionals, our services department works with them to stay in touch with area business, such as florists, caterers, musicians, etc., to meet every need that these meetings may have. The small business is affected by conventions, seminars, conferences, etc., held in the area. Service is a large part of what we do, and we operate 3 welcome centers and a mobile information center and a mobile information unit called Info, INFEAUX, on the go, GEAUX. And recent statistics show us that 85% of visitors plan a trip either on their way to a city or once they arrive. So we've got the information available for the visitors when they reach here or prior to them getting here so that they can enhance their trip while they're in the Baton Rouge and the capital area. We want to make sure that we're a part of the planning process, both before and after their arrival and once they're here in Baton Rouge. Now you've got a better understanding of what we do. Let's talk about some numbers. 2016, just last year, according to a Kantar TNS visitor profile, which was conducted by the Louisiana Office of Tourism, Baton Rouge welcomed over 4.3 million visitors in 2016. 4.3 million visitors. That's 10 times the population of Baton Rouge. 10 times the population. Some people think we're not a tourist center, a tourist destination, a visitor destination. Well, you tell it to the 4.3 million people that showed up here and spent over $870 million. Let's talk about that for a second. 10 visitors for every visitor. So on a given night, you got about 10,000 visitors in town. That fills Alex Box Stadium every night. East Baton Rouge alone, the hospitality industry employs over 12,000 employees. 12,000 people employed by the industry, and that was in 2016. That number's up from 7,000 in 2014. In 2016, visitors spent nearly $1 billion in our area, which was 28% of that was spent in hotels. So of that $875 million just in East Baton Rouge Parish alone, only 28% was spent in a hotel. The additional 72% was spent in restaurants, accommodations, local attractions, eating out, rental cars, retail outlets, grocery stores, gas stations, etc. Tourism means business. Just like you and I spend money when we go on vacation, it's not just us. Cities across the world have caught on. They've become more marketing driven. We're facing tougher competition. Visitors produce an economic impact for cities because of this. Now we're competing with cities that we never would have competed with in the past. A large part of our visitor base is welcoming meetings and convention attendees and pursuing this business. In 2016, we welcomed over 300 meetings and conventions, but there's room for more. And with that comes a cost of incentives, bid fees, etc. We also saw an increase in international visitors in 2016 from countries such as Canada, France, the UK, Germany, and Australia. This year alone, we've welcomed the United States Bowling Congress Women's Championship, Jehovah's Witnesses, and 5 new sporting events that took place this summer, just this past summer. We believe that we can do more, and in fact, in seeing what our competitors have achieved, we know that competition is fierce and the economic impact impacts all of us as residents. Now, next month on November 18th, Visit Baton Rouge will have an item on the ballot for a 2% hotel occupancy tax increase. This is a dedicated tax that can only be used by Visit Baton Rouge and the Raising Cane's River Center, dedicated for Visit Baton Rouge marketing efforts and the Raising Cane River Center renovations. Visit Baton Rouge will be the taxing authority for the tax. One of the areas of confusion that we're hearing as we're speaking with the meeting and locals is that, what is an occupancy tax? This is a tax that a visitor pays when they stay overnight in a hotel. The hotels that will be affected will be in East Baton Rouge Parish, excluding Central, Baker, Zachary, and the North Economic District, which has their own tax for their purposes. Local residents in turn benefit when visitors come in. Just like when you and I go out of town and we spend money on a hotel, some cities, Knoxville, Tennessee, considerably higher than us. Omaha, where we hope we go every year, higher. Mobile, higher. We want to use this additional money to pursue business. It supports and creates 12,000 jobs here in East Baton Rouge Parish. A lot of small business owners benefit from our efforts in bringing tourism here. All this goes back to enhancing the experience that the visitor has when they come to Baton Rouge. And there are plenty of opportunities to enhance that visitor's opportunity and a visitor's experience while they're here. Let's talk about food for a second. USA Today just came out with an announcement that Baton Rouge is one of the 5 most underrated food cities in the South. Baton Rouge is on the list, and rightfully so, but we don't want to be underrated. We want to be rated. We want to get the word out through the appropriate periodicals, et cetera, that we've got some great food here. We want the world to know that, as did Zagat. Zagat came up with an article and featured Baton Rouge on their homepage. 11 must-visit restaurants and bars in Baton Rouge was the title of the article. But there's more to come with our efforts, and they aren't going to stop. Competition is fierce, and as Louisiana's capital city, we can now compete. Unfortunately, it's going to take more than word of mouth to tell our story. We have to be able to compete with incentives and marketing efforts. We know that we can, and looking forward to continuing to make a difference through economic impact that visitors bring to our area. With that additional 2% that we anticipate passing in November, half of which will go to the River Center, 40-year-old River Center, for some renovations. 40-year-old River Center that needs some renovations. The other half will come to visit Baton Rouge to pursue sporting events, conventions, conferences, individual and group leisure travel through magazines, through trade magazines. We'll be on the road at the appropriate trade shows, pursuing conferences, conventions, at conventions of convention planners. And we think we can make a serious difference come November 18th if things go the way we hope they do. With that, I will be very happy to answer any questions from the press. Are you coming up here, Channel 9?
I got to mark it so they know that it's question time.
I'm sorry?
I've just got to mark it with my bars so the producer knows it's question time.
Oh.
When they look back at it, that's all.
They're going to write in question? Yes, ma'am.
How long, what is the time period for the tax, and how much do you anticipate it generating?
The tax in a normal year would generate $1.3 million for the River Center renovation, 1.3 for us for additional marketing efforts. Because the River Center is in need of renovations beyond that, that money would need to be bonded over the course of time. So it does not have a cutoff as such, but I can tell you, over the course of time, convention centers such as the River Center are in need over time of appropriate renovations and what have you. And Michael will be available, Michael Day with the River Center will be available to discuss specifically what they have planned to do over there. But I can tell you, we had a concert in town a couple nights ago that had a major impact on visitation here, that filled some of our hotel rooms. People came in town to see that performer. And if we're going to continue to bring that type of performer here, we've got to have an arena that justifies that. Lafayette building, the Cajun Dome, was just renovated. It's owned by the state because it's on the campus of what we used to call Southwestern, is now called University of Louisiana. They got Garth Brooks for 5 or 6 performances. We would like to get the River Center in such a way that we can bring in that type of entertainment that not only is good for the locals, but brings in out-of-town visitors, and that's what we're about. Yes, sir.
You said this money is to pursue business, additional business. What is your salary, and would you guarantee that this money would not be diverted to pay raises in your organization?
I can tell you that the money is what organization are you with, sir?
I'm a member of the Baton Rouge Press Club. I'm an independent business owner.
But you're not a member of the press?
No.
Okay, I'll be happy to answer that to you later. And let me make this certain. Is that correct? Should one be a member? Okay, he can? Okay, I'm sorry, I want to make sure. My salary is in a newspaper, it's $160,000 a year. And will I guarantee that this money will not be used for pay raises? I'll guarantee you that the money will be used for marketing efforts, advertising, and the pursuit of business. When you have an organization like ourselves, we have no inventory. The only sales opportunities we have is using our people. But it is not our intent at all to put money into salaries, increases, et cetera. It's our intent to move the market. And I'm sorry if I misunderstood the rules, but I'm sure you understand. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Would marketing ever include financial guarantees to attract events and business?
Yes, it would. Let me give you an example here. We brought a convention, 3 back-to-back convention groups to town this past summer, where in order for us to compete with other cities, we had to provide parking and bus service to bring those persons from the parking lot to the River Center, simply because it was during the week when parking was not available readily within the River Center proximity. Rather than write a check to the organization, we would use the money locally for parking lots and went through a local bus company to provide that type of transportation. If we're going to pursue sporting events, a lot of times there's a bid fee associated with it. Just like New Orleans goes after Super Bowl and spends millions of dollars, or the NBA playoff, NBA championship, or the NBA All-Stars, we're spending money to pursue sporting events that are appropriate for Baton Rouge. That's the norm. That's what's involved. As far as conventions, we try, rather than to provide a financial incentive, we try to upscale their event in a certain way, whether provide entertainment or the appropriate amenities to have those visitors have a better experience here in Baton Rouge. Yes, sir.
Are you aware, now this is a little out of your bailiwick, but I would think you would be involved. Are you aware of any serious efforts to try to attract the Amazon business center?
That is something that is certainly beyond mine, but boy, wouldn't that be wonderful? Wouldn't that be wonderful? I can tell you, I am not aware, other than what I have read in the paper, that there was an effort between New Orleans and Baton Rouge, and New Orleans and Baton Rouge individually and together. I am not privy to that, although I could tell you what, if that would have happened, I'd have to go to chiropractic, because I'd be going double flips down 3rd Street. And I think we all should. I think that's something we got to keep in mind. We got a pretty neat city here. We got a pretty neat city that we can pursue some stuff with. We can pursue some, from our end, some conferences, some sporting events, etc. But we need the help on this. And again, let me just say this. This is all for informational purposes. The guy from Gainesville that comes in for the football game, he's going to pay the additional 2%. The guy from Knoxville is going to pay the additional 2%. Tuscaloosa, 2%. Houston, we go over there, it's probably 18% plus. New Orleans, a hotel room here is cheaper than a parking spot is in New Orleans. God bless New Orleans, it's a great city. Why not get that additional 2 cents from the visitor to fix our Raising Cane's River Center to where it should be, so that we can promote our city using that money just like they do in other cities? Any other questions? Yes, sir.
What's the estimated cost to renovate the?
Raising Cane's River Center. Okay, Michael. Plan A, B, or C?
Why?
Michael Day, General Manager, SMG.
Thank you, Paul. I can tell you in 2014, the city did a study with AECOM to what would it take to bring the River Center complex up to today's standards. 3 of the 5 facilities were built in 1977 with little done. The exhibition hall was newer, the Galleria certainly newer, and those areas are fine. And through that, that was the guidepost to pick and choose what we would do. And the target figure is 50 million is what we're shooting for. And the focus on that is bringing the guest services of the facility up to what current standards are in other public facilities. Does that answer the question?
Would this be a 30-year bond you're looking at?
I don't know. That would be city finance would be the people putting that bond together. I can't answer that. I'm sorry.
But don't we have a definition? You're putting out a proposal?
Excuse me?
Since you're putting out a proposal, don't we have a real proposal on the table for Riverside?
Well, again, all I can tell you is, as the taxing authority, we have put the 2% tax on the hotels. 1% would go to the River Center for renovations, and I would think that that 1% would be able to certainly renovate it to a certain extent. I believe that there may be some other areas where there may be some income to assist with that. I know that it's managed by SMG, and there may be some opportunities for additional food services, et cetera. But the 2%, 1% would go to River Center for renovations, 1% for marketing, and I'm certain that we can get you a copy of that plan if you wish. Again, yes, sir.
I'd like to have a copy of the actual proposal by
Michael, would you see the? Yes, sir. We'll get that to you. Yes, ma'am.
Have you, or do you expect any pushback from like the businesses that bring in people for business meetings?
No, I have not. We've had no organized opposition. I can tell you the Hotel Association. The Hotel Association has endorsed this, as has the Restaurant Association, as has the Chamber. I had a discussion with multi-management association person just the other day, and I said, hey, what do you think? He says, he's okay with it. He's okay with it. This 2%, when you look at the total cost of a convention, and only 28% is spent in a hotel, that additional 2% is brought down to about 0.7% of the entire experience. And I think the things that we can do to enhance certain events here are going to be worthwhile. Yes, sir.
In some of your marketing efforts in the past, have y'all also promoted the Louisiana International Film Festival?
I'm sorry?
Have you promoted the Louisiana International Film Festival?
Have we worked with Louisiana International Film Festival? Yes, we have. We have worked with that festival as well as the one coming up this weekend with the Halloween. We've worked with the Arts Council with their event of Ebb and Flow. We've worked with the Blues Festival, and there's certain things that we think we can use some of this money to enhance their programming so that we can bring in more visitors. We want to make these events more than just local events. We want to enhance such that we can bring in some out-of-town visitors. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
What are some exciting things coming up for 2018 conferences or returning conventions?
You know, that's a very good question, and I've got a list of what we've got coming in 2028 that's not quite finalized yet, and I don't want my friends in Shreveport to know what we're going after, but I can tell you we have a good year coming up in 2018. We're a little bit concerned about the total travel that's going to affect South Louisiana because Houston has been affected, and Houston will be affected for a while, both for business travel and for leisure. But I can tell you that we're excited about the events we have with the Film Festival, with Ebb and Flow Festival, with Blues Festival, with all the events that we've got. If we can upscale them to make them more of a tourist event, we're going to be successful with that. We also have something that will be announced in the next couple of days that, although isn't in Baton Rouge, is in nearby Baton Rouge, that's going to enhance some visitation during Christmas. We think between 2 weeks before Christmas and the end of the year, there's going to be a lot of activities here that are going to bring some visitors here. This weekend alone, we've got a lot of activity. We've got a Christmas parade, a book festival, convention here, and Halloween parade, some other things going on this weekend. Yes, sir?
Could you give us a quick demographic profile of the type of visitor you're trying to attract?
I'm trying to attract anyone who comes here and spends money, but the typical visitor here tends to be 47-ish, tends to drive in from a drive-in market, comes here for both educational and visit and for leisure purposes, likes the food, loves the people. The groups count that we'd like to pursue would be more things like the soccer tournament. We had this regional soccer tournament here, brought about 10,000 people in 2010 and again in 2014. At that time, it cost about $30,000 to put that together. Now that fee's about $200,000, and we just lost 2 years to one of the Carolina cities because of their ability to put up that type of money. And was it worth it? We'd love to have those kind of events here. We just had several sporting events this summer: baseball tournament, Marucci softball tournament, the world's champion women's softball tournament here in Baton Rouge, actually a championship game here. Those are the types of events we want to go after. Conventions, group travel, leisure travel, international, but it all takes money to do that, and particularly with marketing efforts and advertising. Yes, sir?
Who controls the revenue? If they use their 1% split and in a particular year it fell short, so maybe they needed 1.25% to pay the bonds rather than default, who is in charge of the revenue, and is this split written in volatile?
Okay, the River Center is controlled, the River Center building is owned by the city. That's a question that they can answer. The way that the division is made is based on a legislative act that went through the legislature this past session, where the define a taxing district and the split of monies. Keep in mind that I'm assuming the River Center expansion bond should be up within the next 10 years or so, if I recall. It probably went through in the early 2000s. Right. That's a good question for the city, and I'm sorry I can't answer that. But I've answered every question about Visit Baton Rouge, what we're going to do with our money, and it's not going to go for my increaser. Anything else? Thank you very much.